Call Carmel Cipollone.
Mr Speaker, stand to support the bill, and Mr Speaker, we support this bill particularly because it does intend to honour the constitutional relationship that we, New Zealand, have with our New Zealand territories, those being Niue, the Cook Islands and Tokelau. Mr Speaker, what is proposed in this bill makes sense. At the moment, we do have the scheme whereby there is a special portability arrangement, but what we see at the moment and what this bill addresses is the fact that Cook Island, Niue, Tokelauan residents need to be present in New Zealand on the date of application to be able to access those benefits. Mr Speaker, we do have a commitment to the three realm nations to ensure that we support their economic and social viability, and in order to do this we need to be supportive of the idea that their people may decide to go back and invest in their own home countries. Mr Speaker, we've seen it many times across those three countries, and actually some of the non-realm countries as well, but particularly the realm countries, where we hear over and over again that the biggest problem facing those three countries, the Cook Islands, Niue and Tokelau, is depopulation. And Mr Speaker, if we can encourage in their senior years some of our Cook Island, Niue, Tokelauan residents to go back and invest, in some cases set up businesses to support their families there and look for ways in which their families can be self-sustainable, then we have an obligation to support that. And this bill does do that, Mr Speaker. It does support those who wish to go back, live there in their latter years, and to undertake whatever initiatives they are interested in doing when they do move back there. Mr Speaker, as we're talking about honouring the relationship between New Zealand with the realm countries though, we can't help but reflect on this side of the House about some of the ways in which recently we have not honoured that relationship with those realm countries. Mr Speaker, this is one way in which we can do it, by supporting those retiring to be able to go back to their Pacific countries and invest. But Mr Speaker, we need to think much more widely about how we as a country, how our government here invests and supports our realm countries so that we are honouring that relationship. At the moment, Mr Speaker, we have situations like with TVNZ, for example, where we're not honouring that relationship. We have TVNZ who felt comfortable with the government of the time, which is a national government, felt comfortable that it was the right environment to be able to cut funding to Māori and Pacific programming, to reduce the content, Mr Speaker, and to outsource anything other than Te Karere that had Māori and Pacific content. Given our relationship with the Pacific, the special relationship with the Pacific region, we feel on this side of the House that actually as a country, not only do we have an obligation to make sure we honour the Treaty of Waitangi and we honour our tangata whenua, but also that we honour the Pacific region and all the Indigenous knowledge and all the Indigenous people that are part of that region, Mr Speaker, and at the moment we are failing under this national government in doing that. Mr Speaker, as I said earlier, depopulation is the issue that was brought up the most from the three countries that I've been to, and actually particularly during the time when New Zealand undertook its inquiry into New Zealand's relationship with the Pacific. Depopulation was mentioned over and over again by the Niue, Cook Islands and Tokelauan government. It was really interesting, Mr Speaker, because here we are at the moment with a high rate of Pacific unemployment, with high levels of underachievement for our Pacific peoples in our schools, and very little being done by the national government to address those things. But what we were told by our Niue, Cook Island and Tokelauan people is that they had lost their biggest resource to this country, their biggest resource being their people. Mr Speaker, I just want to end my speech with saying that this is is recognition of the special relationship that we have with our Pacific countries, particularly our realm countries. But Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we would like the national government to think more broadly about that special relationship that we have with those Pacific countries and actually look at ways in which they can honour that relationship. Thank you.